so much. I know, that's why we forgot.
You guys are crushing it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so we're here in Scottsdale with Chelsea Wolfe, and we're gonna do a little riding chat.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Really appreciate you coming out. 52 degrees.
I know, it got cold really fast.
November in Scottsdale. I came from the West Valley, you came from the East Valley, and we met at Regroup.
Yeah, get some good coffee afterwards.
Yeah, so this is on my list a little later, but let's go ahead and talk about Regroup since we just started our ride from there.
So Regroup is a locally owned coffee and bike shop. They also have a women's cycling team this year, which is really exciting, and last year. They have some unique brands, a little more higher end stuff, and probably, in my opinion, the best coffee in the valley.
How did they put their team together, and how did you get on the team?
So Lindsay Gazer actually worked with the owner Adam and was kind of trying to find a shop to sponsor an all-women's team, and we were looking at some other shops, and Adam was really excited and wanted to really support the team and offered us a really good hookup with full like bikes, kits, shoes, helmets. So we look really professional, even though most of us are Cat 3, Cat 4. It's been really awesome to see it come from nothing to year 2, so I'm excited to see where it goes.
How often do y'all ride together as a team, and is it usually a fun ride or like a training ride when y'all get together?
We have one training ride a month, and that one's serious. We try to work on skills, pace line, like race tactics, attacking, bridging the gaps. We're trying to do more social rides this year. So there's a couple of us that are doing, Alex is doing a Thursday ride in East Valley. We're gonna look at doing some like happy hour social rides through the week. Switch it up because a lot of us are all over. There's a good portion of us in the East Valley, but a lot of them in Scottsdale and then Ahwatukee and even Coolidge. So we're growing. I think we're up to 12 women now, give or take. So that's been really exciting.
Yeah, I told you this the last time I saw you, but those bikes are just amazing.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that we got, it looks so cool to have, I think there's like 8 of us that have the team bike. So we actually had 2 options. We could either lease them or buy them out. So I bought mine because I think it's a really cool bike. And he gave us a pretty good deal on them, which I don't think a lot of teams offer, which is huge. And then we have a dedicated maintenance, which is pretty cool.
We were just climbing a hill, if anyone couldn't tell.
In the wrong gear, because I'm talking.
And we got another little hill coming up. So when you introduce yourself, do you usually go with triathlete or cyclist, or does it depend on who you're talking to?
It depends on who I'm talking to, because I've found that depending who I'm talking to, saying triathlete can get some judgy remarks from the cyclist community. And cycling is probably I grew up a swimmer, but in triathlon, cycling is probably my best and I'm really the strongest at. So when I come to the cycling community, I don't feel like I don't belong. So I like to say closet cyclist sometimes. But it's been really fun to get into it, and now I truly think I identify as a cyclist a lot of the time, but triathlon's still my bread and butter.
I had a bunch of questions planned to ask you. And then yesterday while I was working, I Googled your name. And I'm sure you know there's a famous Chelsea Wolfe who is a singer.
Yes.
There's also a Chelsea Wolfe who's a BMX rider.
Yes. And they're both kind of controversial, which is interesting.
Yeah. What I wanted to say was a lot of my questions that I had planned, I found in some interviews that you've already done.
Oh.
And I'm going to put the links to those interviews below.
Awesome.
So for anyone who wants to know more about Chelsea that we don't cover in this interview, the links are going to be below, and they cover, especially in that first one, they cover like your history, how you got into being a triathlete. There's going to be some overlap, definitely.
Of course.
But I don't want to ask you all that stuff, and I didn't want you to be offended, like, why didn't you ask me, where I grew up and stuff.
Of course.
So I know you went to college in West Virginia.
Yes.
Division II scholarship.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail on that, but how did you get from there to Arizona?
My husband went to school, he's from Arizona, he went to school in West Virginia, which I'm not sure why anyone would ever do if you're not from there. And when I met him, I asked him if he'd ever move back, and he said no. Until you get a 3rd degree burn from your seatbelt, don't even ask. Then before COVID happened, I took a remote job, and he works in the hospital system. And the January before COVID, we were laying on a beach, and I was like, why don't we move somewhere that's beautiful all year round? And we looked between Florida and Arizona, but he actually only applied to a job in Arizona, and he took that job, and we've been here ever since.
Wow. So if COVID didn't happen, you'd probably never be here?
Well, I actually started working remote before COVID, and he took the job as COVID was happening. So probably we would.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But if I never thought I'd have an opportunity in my industry to work from remotely, and my industry's going towards that way. So it's pretty cool to see where I can go with it.
Yeah. So tell me about your bikes over the years. You started out on a mountain bike,
I did. I grew up mountain biking, a lot of just like rail trail and like dirt track type situations. Then I got into a little bit of downhill. Scared, but I think I got into it a little too late, so I was already too scared to do a lot of it.
Were you jumping?
Yeah.
Wow. Is there footage?
There's definitely some of me eating dirt, yes, to find that. And then after college, I had a guy tell me that I would never, it was a college teammate, he was gonna do an Ironman. I was like, oh, I wanna do an Ironman. And he's like, Chelsea, you could never do an Ironman. And the one thing to know about me is don't tell me I can't do something. So I decided long term I was gonna do an Ironman. So I signed up, ran a marathon, because that was the one I was worried about. And then I bought a bike, and it was a Trek Alexa. Cheapest one, because at the time $800 for a bike seemed like a lot of money. So I rode that for my first Ironman with clip-on aero bars. Had a great time and fell in love with riding in West Virginia because we don't have nice bike lanes, but we have some of the most amazing country roads to ride on. So I started out in the Trek Alexa, and then I got a TT bike, straight into the world of triathlon. And that bike had Di2, Ultegra, so I went from bare bones to the Cadillac of TT bikes at the time.
What kind of bike?
It was a Liv Advanced Eval Pro.
Okay.
That's back when you could pick a color of the bike, and last season bikes went half the price, and got a really good deal on it. Kept that for a while, and then I decided I needed a really good road bike. So after that I got a Well, I'm trying to think what bike I had next, because I had kind of a series of unfortunate events with bikes.
I know one got damaged in a flight.
Yeah, that was my like upgraded TT bike. I was on the way to Kona for World Championships, and they broke my rear chainstay. Luckily, I had insurance on that bike and was able to get like a replacement frame with my insurance. I had a Cannondale Super 6, and then I sold that for my friend had a Allied bike, custom kind of design, and I invited a new girl in the valley to ride with me. Left here. And she didn't understand hand signals and T-boned me.
Oh no.
I think she was just a little aloof in the day. That cracked my frame, so that was frustrating. And then I got a Trek Domane, beautiful bike, because I still could use all the components off my Ally, just the frame was cracked. And went to Palm Springs to watch my husband race, and we had the bike locked on the back of the car, but we ran in to pick up food, and in the 10 minutes we were doing that, someone cut my bike off the back of the car.
Oh my God.
So, series of very unfortunate events.
That's my biggest nightmare.
It was the worst.
Getting a bike stolen, especially if it's your favorite bike.
Yeah. And you know, like I'd been working up to keep building like my dream bikes. It wasn't the color I wanted, because that was when frames were really hard to get. But it rode like a dream. Then I had a Live, I want to say a Veil. It's their like carbon road bike. And I had that till I got this guy. And now I guess I'm on bike number 7 or 8 of road bikes. And then I have a gravel bike, which I love. It's just a Grizzle by Canyon.
What TT bike are you using currently?
It's a Canyon Speed Max.
Okay. What are your favorite bike? A couple of your favorite bikes? Your current ones, probably?
Yeah. I love my Speed Max. It fits me really, really well. It's light. It's really integrated, so everything's on it. And then I really like my Orbea. The only thing I'm not super in love with is I'm a Shimano girl, and it's decked out in SRAM.
Oh, wow.
I just don't like having to take my batteries off to charge them.
Yeah. Tell us about your other gear. I know listening to these podcasts, with running shoes, you went through Brooks, Altra, and I think you have a new sponsor now, maybe, or a new.
Well, I work one day a week at Cadence Running Company, so I get to try all the shoes now.
Oh wow.
My friend owns it, and I work part-time, but I run in a combination of Hoka and Nike. So I'm a Mesa Marathon ambassador, and Hoka's sponsored us this year, so I get to try out some of the new Hokas. I really like them a lot.
That's cool.
And I used to hate Nike shoes, but right now Nike's my all-time favorite. I'm running the Zoom Fly 5 is like my everyday trainer, and then the Alpha Flies are my fast shoe.
You just tried a bunch of shoes and.
Yeah, and I've had some like foot issues over the years. Like I had foot surgery in 2017. My feet are prone to neuromas, so I get these painful nerve tumors in my feet. So finding a shoe that didn't flare them up, and I can still wear like orthotics inside of them, has been nice.
I'm not a runner, but I have to guess that finding a good pair of running shoes is kind of like finding a saddle.
Yes, 100%.
because I've gone through at least 3 on my road bike, and I finally found one that I love. But it's not cheap and it's not easy.
No, and unfortunately, like running shoes, sometimes you don't know they're not for you till like 50 miles in, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh great, that's not ideal.
Shout out the store you work for, the shoe store.
Cadence Running Company. They're in Gilbert, and they also have a new one in Queen Creek.
Nice.
So they are one of the best. They are the best running shoe in the valley. Running shoe store.
And what about swim gear?
So ironically, swimming gear I feel like lasts forever. So most of my equipment I've had since I was like 15 or 16.
Wow.
I joke and I tell people, but like goggles people pay a lot of money for, and I wear these $4 goggles called Swedish goggles. There's no padding on them and they last forever.
Same ones if you're in a race?
Yep.
Wow.
And swimsuits, I really like a brand called Jolyn. They're like a newer brand from California, and they're bright and obnoxious like me, so I like them.
So I know you've done a lot of Ironmans. What other triathlons have you participated in, or do you want to participate in?
So the cool ones I've done is I've done Escape from Alcatraz, where you jump off of a boat into San Francisco Bay and you swim from Alcatraz to San Francisco.
Wow.
That was probably one of the coolest experiences. I didn't have the race I wanted, but it was an amazing experience.
And there's no worry about sharks, or?
So that was actually my bachelorette party. I had all my girlfriends come watch me, and we called it Shark Week. And the joke was, if I get eaten by a shark, at least it'll be a cool story to tell.
Wow. Okay, I want to say something real quick. Anyone who would talk trash on a triathlete, I think is just crazy. I mean, you guys are really, really hardcore. And the reason I thought of that is just because of your shark story that you just told. But can you just real briefly, because a lot of my viewers aren't going to know that much about triathlons. I know all the numbers, but can you just real briefly explain the numbers in triathlons between an Olympic triathlon and a half Ironman and a full Ironman?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to be awful at telling you the Olympics because I don't do them very often, but I believe it's like 1,000.
It's like half of a half Ironman, basically.
Yeah, it's a little bit wonky. It's like a 1,000 to 1,600 swim, and then it's like a 20-mile bike, and like a 10K run.
Yeah, exactly.
A half Ironman is a 1.2 mile swim, a 56-mile bike, and then a 13.1 mile run. Always in that order. And then a full Ironman, which is my favorite, is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a full marathon of 26.2 miles.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure anyone listening to this who aren't familiar with triathlons can understand how insane that is and just how hardcore you got to be to complete one of those races. I can't even imagine doing anything after a 112 mile bike ride or however long it is.
It's my favorite when we're riding here in the summer and I'm with my cycling friends and we do like a century ride and they're like, oh my, it's so awful. I'm like, I get to go run a marathon after this soon, guys. Or they'll all go for coffee and I'm like, sorry, I gotta do a 30-minute run real quick and then I'll meet you there.
The World Triathlon organization called?
World Triathlon.
Yeah, just World, that's what I thought. So you don't participate in any of those?
I don't really. Most of those are strange distances, and I really like the Ironman brand. There's some competing brands that I really like now too. Like there's the Challenge family, and a new one. They just renamed it again, but it used to be called like Challenge Miami, and now it's called. I'm gonna blank, but they're trying to give them some run for their money because Ironman's been far too big for far too long. I'm really good at endurance, so a lot of the world triathlon races are short, and I have a diesel engine. Not a Ferrari.
Just briefly, tell us about the difference in qualifying between those. Like, how do you qualify?
So it's all about your ranking, and you have to go to specific races and place a certain place. For World Triathlon, I think it's a little bit more tricky, based on the amount of people in the race, based on your overall finish, and if it's a qualifying race. For Ironman, it's changed. It is a little bit more tricky. It used to be that the top one or two in your age group would get a world qualifying slot, and there would be more slots depending on how many people in your age group. Now there's a group called Women for Tri, and they're offering a lot more slots to women to try to even the playing field at World Championships. This is my, I guess, controversial take on it. I don't love that. I think it should be percentage based. So if only 1,000 women show up, only the 20% should get to go. And if 2,000 men show up, 20% should get to go of men. Men shouldn't be punished for more of them showing up in numbers. I think we need to get more women in the sport instead of just giving slots away. But I'm really competitive, so I don't want something to be handed to me. I want to have to work for it.
Yeah.
For example, at Ironman Arizona last year, I think in my age group, you could have came in 56th and still got a slot. And some years, second place doesn't even get a slot. So it's interesting.
Talk just a little bit about all your travels. How did you feel about the Ironman championships changing from Hawaii to France?
I love traveling. I think that's how you learn the most. So I like that my hobbies collide there. I don't love that they moved the women to, they split the days and now they're in France for part of the time. Green light. I don't know if you've the news recently, but the men just did Kona, and the Ironman champion Patrick Longa actually announced during his post-race interview that he's begging Ironman to bring men and women back together on the Big Island, just because the spirit of Ironman, that's where it's born. This sport was born. It's a totally different feeling. The race in Nice was incredible, and I think they did a great job, but to me it just felt like I went on an international race, not like I was in Kona for World Championships.
You would prefer to be in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just the start line feeling is magical. There's no other way to put it. Whereas in France, I had the best time, and how can you be complaining about being in France? Doing part of the Tour de France course on your bike, but
getting all your croissants?
Yes. That's the only thing I'll complain about is they had croissants at the practice swim. I thought for sure they would have croissants somewhere on the run course or the bike course, and there was no croissants.
You got robbed. You've mentioned several times that I've seen races costing $1,000. Now, how much of that is that can't just be the entrance fee?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So for example, a typical Ironman now, if you get in under first tier pricing, it's $700. If you don't make it to the third tier pricing, so for example, I do Texas in April. As soon as that race is over, they open the next, for next year. So if you sign up in April, because you know that next April you want to do that, it's $700. But if you wait till right now in December, you're paying maybe $1,100, which is hard because a lot of people can't. It's hard to plan that far out, and life changes, and the refund policy is garbage. But for example, when I qualified for Worlds in Texas, you have to pay on the spot for the World race, and it was $1,600.
$1,600
to go to France, and that's just my race entry.
I can't I don't understand how they could charge that much money.
And that was the thing for the long time. I didn't mind, like, you know, like if they started out at like, they used to be like $500 and they've gone up because they do put on a great event. And my husband had to use their medical services at one point and they treat us amazingly. Like that's how you would expect every race to handle an emergency situation. But I'm like you, I can't figure out what $1,600 does when most people are volunteering to help at these events.
How much is a entrance fee in other organizations?
So I think that's how other companies are trying to compete with them. So like Challenge, so for a halves now are like $300 to $500 depending on the tier. Challenge are like $200. So you're getting people, and T100 is another big one. And, you know, 200 is a lot more easy to chew than 500 because you're limiting so many people from being able to afford that.
Yeah. And that's before all the travel expenses.
Yeah.
One of the interviews I listened to, you guys just real briefly talked about nutrition. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. Differences in diet from when you're training and when you're not training.
I pretty much eat the same all the time. I just eat a lot more when I'm training full time. When you're training for an Ironman, you almost have to force feed yourself because you're burning so many calories that, and especially after like a 6-hour ride, you're not hungry because all your blood is focused on recovering your muscles, not on digesting.
How many calories are you burning on average per day when you're training?
Oh,
I know it's different when you're riding 6 hours on a Saturday, but
yeah,
on average.
I try to eat like, I would say like a Saturday, Sunday, like 3,000 to 4,000 calories on those days. Cause
how do you get that many calories?
And I mean, that's taking into account like I'm eating a lot on my ride too, but high protein and high carb a lot. Everything I eat is pretty like Whole Foods type of diet. I do make really good brown butter sea salt Rice Krispies that are like my guilty pleasure.
You take those on rides with you?
Yeah. And I make homemade sourdough, so I eat a lot of sourdough bread.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah. So at one point we were making, like I was starting a loaf every day. So we'd have some, because my husband's also an endurance athlete, so we have a lot of bread, meat, and veggies all the time in the house.
How long do you let the dough rise?
So I do a initial 12-hour rise, and then I do like 3 1-hour rises the next day, and then I let it proof overnight. So it's like a 3-day process.
Wow, that sounds legit.
It's a really easy recipe but you have to be like sure that you're gonna be around for 3 days.
So you mentioned that you have a coach.
Yes, I've had several coaches. My recent coach I've had for almost 2 years now, and she owns a human performance lab in Anchorage, Alaska. And she's pretty rad. She changed kind of how I view training, and it made it more enjoyable. She focuses on, it's way more quality over quantity, so I have a lot more time back in my life, and I've gotten a lot faster. So I'm not like the typical triathlete that's doing like 20 hours a week. I'm doing like 10 to 15 on a really big week. So I think focusing on recovery has like changed everything for me.
How often do you all communicate?
She comments on my workouts every week. We probably talk once a month. She's actually became one of my really good friends though, so some days I talk to her every day.
What do you track everything in?
Training Peaks.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you mentioned it several times. And how do you use Training Peaks? You track everything in there?
Yeah. So your Garmin and your bike, or any sort of thing, I use Garmin, but will automatically sync to it, which is really cool. And then vice versa, she puts all my workouts in, and it'll actually pop up, and like I can do the workout like watts prescribed or paces required, and follow it along on my bike computer or my watch, however I'm doing it. So it's really nice. And then it does like a completion, like green means you hit it right, yellow means like you either did too much time or not enough, or you missed your paces, and then red is if you skipped the workout. So
your goals are programmed in?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never seen any software like that. So.
Yeah, I'll show. It's pretty neat, and it gives you like a fitness score, and you can track like your load and your volume. And
does your coach discuss diet with you?
she does. She actually has a nutritionist on staff that you can like choose to utilize. So when I first started with her, I used her for about 3 months to just like make sure that my diet was where I needed it to be for all the work I'm doing and how this coach works. And it was really cool. I know that like she focused on getting more protein in, because I think as endurance athletes, we focus on carbs, but protein's also so important. And then for her, it was making sure I wasn't under eating, because under eating can be like a really big thing in especially in Ironman distance races.
How far in advance do you schedule your training days?
So she will put them in usually like a week to like a week and a half before, so I can see what I have coming up for the next week. And then what's cool in Training Peaks is you can also like block your availability. So if I have to travel for work, I can be like, I'm not bringing my bike on this trip, so I'll be going, I can swim and run. And she'll be able to program that. But we usually do week by week, just because like last week I had some sort of like cold/allergy situation. And life comes up, so that like changed how we did the whole week.
Yeah.
Through the week, it depends like what we're focusing on. So like right now I'm kind of in a run bike building block, so I'll swim less. But usually I have like one day off a week, or like a recovery day, and then swim. Like I'll swim a bike on the same day, and then run and lift on another day, and I rotate that depending on like where I'm at. And then every Saturday is my long ride day, and every Sunday is my long run day, with occasional doubles on those days if I have time.
In some of your interviews, you mentioned not being a morning person.
Nope.
I'm not either at all. But I see you riding pretty frequently in the morning.
Yeah, if I can get somebody to meet me in the morning, I will go. I'm like, I don't want to let people down, I guess. So if I know I'm supposed to meet them there, I'll be there. And I'll be there happy. And that's why I never mind, like, if my friends want to meet here instead of the East Valley, because it gives me like a 25-minute drive to drink coffee and become a good human.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was up to me and it's not 100 degrees out, I will ride at noon every day. Like that's my ideal workout time.
How does swimming work in the wintertime? You're swimming in a heated pool, I assume?
Yeah, I do love it here because it's all outdoors. We'll go right here. And the sun here just makes you feel warm. And that's why I typically always swim at noon or 11, like 11 and 12 is when our pool's open. Clear.
So if you're in a pool that's not heated and you know it's going to be cold, do you just jump right in, or do you?
I'm definitely, I was talking to someone at the pool yesterday about this. Our coaches in college used to have to push us in the pool when it was like that. So now I just have to like tell myself, and I'll sprint like the first 25 to make myself like want to be in the pool. Because if you're cold, there's nothing worse than being cold and miserable swimming.
So you'll just jump right in and get to it?
Yeah, I just start out harder than I probably normally would. Because usually I'm like a lazy warm-upper. Like I want to go real slow and get my feel for the water. But if it's cold, I gotta sprint for a minute, get my heart rate up.
Just even getting ready for a ride and planning all the stuff you need.
Yeah.
And then when you add a triathlon to the mix, I can't even imagine. So I was gonna ask you, what do you pack for a triathlon? Not your vacation stuff or anything else, just for just for the triathlon?
A lot, and that's the worst part about triathlon is there's so much. I don't think I've ever done a race where I don't forget something, but like because it's an obscure thing that you don't think about. Like a CO2 valve, you know, like like silly things like that. Like just going through it. So swimming, you need, depending if it's wetsuit legal or not, a wetsuit or a swim skin. The swim skin is like what you wear on top of your tri kit if it's not wetsuit legal, but still makes you a little bit more hydrodynamic. And cap, goggles. Some tri-glides so that you're not chafing from things moving. A backup pair of goggles because race day is always the day that your goggles like to break. Then you move on to the bike. I always have to pack a little towel because you don't like trying to put socks on wet is the worst thing ever. And to the bike you need a towel. Depending on who you are, you might want cycling socks. I go back and forth if I wear socks or not. Cycling shoes. You're wearing your kit usually already. Your bike computer, CO2. If you're not tubeless, an extra tube. Water bottles, nutrition. Sunglasses, or an aero helmet with glasses, a visor. Then you go to the run and you need shoes, sock, probably a different type of sock because you usually run in something different. We'll go left here. I wear a hat and sunglasses and a belt with, it's like a tri-belt where you put your bib number on. Sunscreen.
I can't imagine.
It's a lot. So you can see like that list, and I'm still thinking of stuff. It's easy to be like, oh wow, I forgot my sunglasses, or I forgot.
Yeah.
I usually always focus when I'm packing on like the important stuff. Like I know I can't run without shoes. I know I can't bike without shoes and my bike.
What kind of shoes do you cycle in a triathlon?
I still cycle in my road shoes.
Okay.
I used to have triathlon specific shoes, and then I got some really good cycling shoes. And the amount of time, especially in like an Ironman, the time you waste, like the seconds don't matter as much in that regard. But if you're doing a sprint, it matters. A lot of people will rubber band their shoes to their bikes, but I'll take the 10 seconds and boa my shoes on.
I know this is a small detail, but so you have a staging area where, like, after you swim, you get your cycling stuff on.
Yeah.
You have a towel, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
How do you get, like, if you're running from a beach, how do you get all the sand and stuff? Because I can't imagine cycling 100 miles with like sand in my socks or something like that.
Oh, it's awful. I have a water bottle usually that's just for like rinsing stuff off.
Oh, okay.
A lot of times if it's a beach though, they'll have like showers, but then I still always have extra water because even after you shower, you're walking, there's sand everywhere, and that's just the grossest thing.
Yeah.
So
you'll kind of hose your feet down.
Yeah.
And then dry them off and then throw your socks and shoes on.
Yep.
One of the craziest things I found about triathlons is just how hectic everything is. Like starting in a big group of swimmers with no lanes.
Yep.
And then when you get to the cycling, there's not a peloton.
No.
And it's kind of a free-for-all. People are passing each other all the time. How do people view like drafting when you're in a triathlon? If you're like riding right behind someone, is that acceptable or?
No, so in Ironman and they're what's called non-draft legal races, you have to be 7 feet behind in front of a rider.
Okay.
Or I think it's more than that, seven. I'm gonna be wrong.
Like all directions, basically.
Yeah.
7 feet. Okay.
I think it's more than that now that I'm saying it, but and if you're caught, and even if the pros now have radars on them that it will automatically give them a penalty.
I was trying to find some of the questions I'm asking you. I tried to research yesterday and I couldn't find an answer.
Yeah.
I saw some videos, and in most of the videos, the people are pretty far apart.
Yeah.
But in some of them, I saw some people drafting, so I was wondering if that was looked down upon or...
Yeah, like I actually got the first time I went to Kona, I got a 5-minute penalty for inadvertent drafting.
Wow.
Because in Kona, there's a bunch of little hills, and you know, when you're climbing and you have to pass somebody, sometimes you get stuck.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be as the motorcade like came by, and they're like, "Oh, drafting, 5-minute penalty."
They know that just you're wearing a tag, right?
Yeah.
And they know that just because of the tag proximity.
Well, they're just looking at me, and that's a visual observation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I'm not a pro, but the pros have this new radar on their bikes that the officials can actually review live the whole time, and it can tell them like how far apart they are in all directions, and kind of give them, they can get fully disqualified if they're caught drafting.
Wow.
But like college triathletes and like others, there's draft legal, so they have to work together in the peloton. So that's where the sprint distance in Olympics is much different, because if you get dropped from the peloton, your race is almost over.
So I saw a video recently of a gravel race, and all these people are coming up a really steep climb.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not exaggerating, like 5 people all cramped at the very top of that hill, and they were like falling off their bikes. And I was just wondering how often you see people cramping during an Ironman.
Oh man. If you have time, I recommend everybody to come out and watch the run at Ironman Arizona.
The final run?
Yeah, because it's around Tippy Town Lake. And if you want to see people in like the true pain cave, watching people run the marathon after 112 mile bike that's true human grit, but also you'll see cramping, you'll see puking, you'll see crying.
I bet. Why aren't there skill categories in marathons? You know, in racing, there's like category 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Don't you think there should be skill categories in triathlons?
That'd probably be a really good idea. I mean, I guess the problem is it's like all time based. And I think it's hard because you have 3 sports. So, like, I might be a Cat 1 swimmer if we were to like compare it to riding. Cat 4 cyclist, and then
that's true.
Cat 5 runner. So, I don't know how you'd be able to do that.
It seems like there would be skill categories to me. I'm just a complete outsider.
Yeah.
It just seems like it'd be nice to race against people that are kind of in your category. You know?
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely something that should probably be considered, because there's now like Athena and Clydesdale, so it kind of gives the people who are, I guess, because it is a weight and size category. So like if for women, I think it's if you're over 170 pounds, you can register to be in the Athena category, so you're not racing like the 90-pound people who...
Okay. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's not every race has that, but a lot of races are starting to do that, and I think it's a good idea to get people who may be like intimidated by size to get into the sport. Any way we can get more people to do the sport, I think will like bring costs down. Also, like more competition, and that's what I really like. You know, about I hear all these groups in Phoenix like popping up, and like watching your videos too. Like the girl you interviewed, you know, she started 2 new groups for like so many people, because cycling is also intimidating to get into, and if you don't look or have the skill set of the group you're trying to join, you may never come back.
Yeah, for sure. I'm wondering if you had any just general tips for people who might be new to triathlons or while they're actually racing?
Well, you make sure you're having fun. Remember, it's a hobby, because I think people take themselves too seriously. And if you're getting into it, if you're not having fun, like you should be in some sort of pain. You're working hard, but if you're not having fun, then why do it? But remember that there's nothing better than the finish line. So maybe wait till then to make a judgment. And the second one is to remember your why, like why you're doing it. So when I'm running and things get really hard, and especially in an Ironman, I choose to dedicate every mile to someone that has helped me get where I am or bet against me. And so that mile is to them, because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be out there pushing it hard or have the support I need to get where I'm going. So just remember that while you're the one racing, you have to have probably a lot of support crew, and even if it's thanking yourself for doing all the work, get out there and have fun.
Yeah, that's great. In one of your interviews, you said, we all know it hurts, but if you pretend it doesn't hurt as much and you try and be happy and you try and love every moment, then the pain is different. But you didn't really explain what you mean by the pain is different. And I kind of understand, since I've gotten into cycling, what you're talking about, but explain that a little more and some tips you might have to change, dread into happiness or whatever.
So my favorite way, like changing dread, is to remember that you get to do this. Like no one's forcing you to do it. So if you're dreading it all the time, then like reevaluate your why. But for me, like it's always the run, because that's the last part of a triathlon, or at the end of a bike when you just want to be off. But when you realize that like you get to do this, like look how far you've came and look at like all you've achieved, even if it's your first one, like you probably never thought you'd get to that point. And if you can like turn a negative into a positive, like even if it's just placebo effect, your endorphins and you're gonna be happy, and the reward is so much better.
So if you're on a long ride, just for an example, or run or whatever, and you're just kind of over it, but you know you still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
What are some actual strategies that you, is it just all mental?
It's definitely a huge mental sport. It's physically nothing really, like for a triathlete, if I'm on my TC bike or even a road bike, I'll switch from, being in the hoods to being in the drops. Like anything to like trying to trick your mind into what you're doing, or like arrow to not arrow on a TC bike, or like physical things you can do. But mentally, I just try to like talk myself, like get out of the negative mindset. So like, and we're all gonna get there at some point. There's days where it's hot and all you can focus on is the heat. Think about, like, I will think about, I can't wait till it's December in Arizona, and I'll be wishing that it was hot because it's cold. But I will sit back and, like, now that they've made, like earbuds that you can put music in and still hear the outside, like shocks or things like that, put music on and zone out. Or if you don't have music with you, think of your favorite song you know all the words to, and I will sing that over and over again.
Usually when I ride, I have a Bluetooth speaker. It
Yeah.
just gets me so pumped up.
Yeah, ever since I got like the Shocks headphones that I can hear like cars go by me, I love listening to music and podcasts and get you out of your head.
Yeah.
Versus sometimes, if I don't have music. And also too, like, I think we're pretty lucky to live in Arizona. I like to like focus on all the things around me, like, wow, look at the mountain over there. Like, look at the...
right there in the beautiful Papago Mountain.
Yeah, or palm trees, or houses, or whatever, and kind of gets you out of like why it hurts so bad.
You said in one of your interviews, people get faster as they get older. I actually researched that because I was curious, and I found several sources. I don't know how accurate this is overall, but it said that for the average Ironman, peak performance is between 30 and 35 years old.
Yes.
So when you say you get older, you get faster as you get older, how long do you think that continues? And I know it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
It depends on when you start, how long you've been doing it, how serious you are about it, and all those factors. But what about for you when you think about the future? How long do you think you'll be doing competitive triathlons?
I would say, so my coach is in her 50s and she's still getting faster, which is like, she's just incredible. Like, she kicks my ass. And that's the thing that like I look forward to, is even if I wanted to take a break, I think I could come back and still get stronger. I'll probably be in this sport for as long as I can stay healthy, even if I slow down a little bit. But I think like my run, I have so much more to gain, and even in my cycling, that I'll be in this sport for at least another like 5 to 10 years and still see some substantial gains. My swimming's never going to get faster. It's probably just going to get slower. But the other two, I think I've like not hit my potential yet.
So you mentioned you're pretty competitive. If you do start to slow down, do you think that'll bum you out, or?
I definitely will. But I think, and it's been eye-opening for me as someone who like swam at the college level, is like I'm never going to be what I used to be in the water because I'm not putting those hours in. Mm-hmm. So kind of like reshaping your mindset of like, where are you good for today, right? Good for this time of my life.
Yeah, for sure.
Because job's gonna get in the way, family's gonna get in the way, maybe kids, you never know.
I want to talk to you about social media. I would consider you, an influencer. How do you feel about that word?
I don't mind it. It kind of snuck up on me that I was like a micro influencer, and then I was like, all of a sudden I was like a local influencer for a while, and now like brands are starting to notice me, and I'm like, okay, well I guess I am officially an influencer. It's interesting. I just did it to kind of like blow off steam of stuff that we all joke about, and it's kind of cool to see it grow and people actually want to follow along.
Your reels are great. It's a good combination too. There's like, most of them are obviously funny.
Yeah.
But there's motivational ones, inspirational ones, your personal life. It's a good mix. You're doing it right, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. I'm trying to I want people to see that it's not, I don't want to just be a meme account, right, where no one knows who I am. So I try to always make sure that there's some sprinkle of me in them, with an occasional raccoon jumping off a car. We don't know.
I saw that one. I was always curious to know how influencers get paid. We don't need to talk about numbers or anything like that, but I know you have do you consider them sponsors, or first of all, let's talk about your sponsors, other than we talked about Regroup, and then I see your jersey here, Tres Piñas. Yeah,
so Tres Piñas, I've been with them for 5 years, and officially a influencer for them now, partnership, I guess.
You have your own code.
Yes.
Discount code.
And I have some other ones like protein bars, and I did previously work with bodybuilding.com, but when it becomes to feel too much of a job is kind of when I have to back off. And if I don't feel like I'm being genuine to myself anymore, I can't do it. So a lot of times I will do gifting campaigns where if you want me to rep your brand, I have to actually like it. So give me a box of your protein bars, and if I like them, I'll promote them. Mm-hmm.
But there's no obligation or no contract?
Typically when I ask for to try something first, there's no contract first, and then I will negotiate a contract after that. Just because I've gotten burned a little bit in the past from that. And I'm still learning because, like I said, to me, I feel like it all kind of happened overnight, where people were like, I want to work with you.
Your coach doesn't have anything to do with your sponsorships?
No.
Okay.
No.
So, at what point do you consider yourself like a collaborator versus a sponsored by a brand?
I guess right now, like, I'm not sponsored by anyone. I think I'm just like a collaborator.
Okay, so what about Regroup?
I guess in a way they're a sponsor for me because they are sponsoring our team, and I'm a teammate of theirs.
Yeah. So Regroup, and then I figured Tres Piñas was an actual sponsor, but you're saying it's more of a collaborator?
Yeah.
Jesus. I was actually in the bike lane.
I know.
I mean, I might be like an inch over, but...
Yeah, Tres Piñas, I was on their like ambassador team for a while. And that's kind of like, they started out really small and then just kept being on it, but you pay a little bit to have a discount. And now I'm an actual like collaborator with them. So that's pretty cool, and I'll have like a custom jersey and custom kit this year, and then potential to maybe like sell it to the public. So some things like that are pretty cool.
So when you have a discount code, do you get a percentage of people who use it?
It depends. So like some will give you like points per how they use, and then you use those points for like a designated dollar amount.
Okay.
Some of them are like 15% commission on every sale you make. It really depends on the size of the brand.
Okay, that makes sense. So you have codes for Tres Piñas and Rise Bar?
Yeah, Rise Protein Bar.
Anyone else?
I have a couple local ones that'll be coming soon, which I'm pretty excited about. On Mesa Marathon. So right now, I have a code. You get $10 off the Mesa Marathon with my name, and then I'll raffle off 4 free entries closer to the race.
Oh, cool.
So that one's pretty exciting.
People need to follow your Instagram
Yes.
for that.
Chelsea with an extra A _Shay.
Yeah, I'll have the link down below also.
No, pretty much only on Instagram right now. I've flirted with TikTok a little bit, but too many socials I can't keep up with, and I feel like I've become less myself. So sticking with Instagram for now.
Yeah, and I highly encourage everyone to just go to Chelsea's Instagram, click on the Reels tab, and just scroll through some of them, because a lot of them are hilarious. And that was on my list of questions to ask you, but you covered it in another interview about kind of how you create your Reels.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have a link to all those previous interviews also.
Awesome.
So check those out. But since we have a minute, did you want to...
We'll go straight and go around.
Has your process of making Reels changed at all, or
it's ever evolving? So right now, because AI is like coming on force, sometimes I'll ask AI a lot, like, or ChatGPT, like, what's trending?
That's a good pro tip.
Yeah. So now it's not always like hit or miss, but the algorithm changes so often that, unfortunately, I spend a lot of time scrolling just to keep up with like the trends, because, you know, maybe my overlays were doing really well for a long time, and all of a sudden, like, that, no one wants to see that anymore. So you got to go with funny captions on your things. So it's a lot of research that I guess would sometimes be viewed as like endless scrolling, but
Are you making them? I mean, you post almost every day, right?
yeah.
Are you making them on the spot, or do you have like a week, like a bank ready
I
to go?
try to have a bank, but some days I'll see something that I'm like, this has got to be made today. I like to schedule like a week in advance or more if I can. But some, you know, it doesn't always happen, and some weeks, like I said, I was sick / had whatever allergies I had, and I didn't post as much. But I definitely see when I don't post as much, I lose all my engagement, I lose followers. It's actually crazy how, if you're not consistent on social media and you're not following the trends, how quickly you're just gone.
Yeah.
So it's all learning though. And I'm sure there'll be a day when it's not fun anymore, but right now if I'm still making myself laugh making them, then I think it's going well.
Doesn't use a jigsaw or something. No, you said. I remember what I said. No, I remember you saying. This sounds like a process, like someone who thinks they used to know say. Oh, yes. Way more hard than all the people are something out with your hand and he takes your own.
And so they're cooler